Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. The NFL trade deadline was earlier today, Tony. Have you ever made any trades you regret?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, trading away reality for that pool furniture. I would take that back. I miss reality.
Yes, you is. In Little League, our parents, the manager and the parents, made a trade. 10 years
You're kidding.
old.
No, you can't do that in Little League.
10 years old. Our
They
best
got rid
player,
of somebody?
our best player for Michael Fatts. Michael Johnson. He was Michael Fatts' catcher. We went on from 1-17 to win the Little League.
How do you think the kid who got traded away felt? Think he felt good about that for the rest of his life?
Stewart.
I've read about
I
it.
still remember.
Dwayne Stewart. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, NFL trades, college football playoff rankings, and Jeff Saturday joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Kansas City Chiefs remaining unbeaten by beating Tampa Bay last night in overtime 30-24. Tampa Bay had scored a touchdown with 27 seconds to go and had the opportunity to either tie the game at 24 with a kick or try and win the game with a 2-point conversion. Tampa Bay coach Todd Bowles unhesitatingly went for the one and the overtime. Wilbon, in that moment, agree with Bowles' decision?
Nope. And let me say up front, I really, really like Todd Bowles, who we got to know when he was in Washington as a player.
Yeah.
And just as a player, I really liked him. As a coach, I really like him. No. In real time, you got to go for 2 because that dude wearing 15 in red, you can't let him have a chance at home. I don't care if it's raining or not. I don't care about the conditions. He's playing at home. He's the closest thing to 23 in red. You can't let him have the game in his hands because he'll steal it from you, and he did. And so, no, in real time, I'm just thinking, I want to see him go for 2 here. And if he gets it, maybe he puts this thing, away from Mahomes in a way that he can't get it. Right. And they couldn't do it in regulation. Right. So, yes, do it now. Win
I agreed in that moment. I agreed wholeheartedly with Todd Bowles.
You did?
I did. Tampa Bay had just scored. Baker Mayfield led them on an 11-play drive. And I'm just going to add parenthetically here that people who have lobbed grenades at Baker Mayfield for years, I think we're done with that now. Yeah. He leads the NFL in touchdown passes. He had 2 more last night. He was 23 of 31. And his 2 best receivers are not in the game because they're hurt. So to get back to this point, I agree with it. The percentages aren't there. 31% of the time, the 2-point thing works. And all you're asking your team to do, and I believe the last time Kansas City had the ball, Tampa Bay stopped them and forced a punt. You're asking them, just don't give up a touchdown. Now it turned out the other way because of Mahomes.
You're the guy who sits here,
best player
more
on the planet,
importantly, on the phone every Sunday.
Best player on the planet.
You're preaching and screaming. This guy's the best player.
And now he's 8-2 in overtime games.
What are you doing?
And in the 2 overtime games that Tampa Bay has had this year, they haven't touched. The other team has gone down the field and gotten a touchdown.
It was a bad decision, and you can see it in live time. Not second guessing. And by the way, I'm a person who never trusted Baker Mayfield. And let me say,
he's good now.
I love him. Yeah. He is tough.
Yeah.
Talk about a guy who makes great decisions in real time on the field. He's missing receivers. I love Mayfield now.
Can I tell you when I began to worry that it was the wrong decision? Because I'm telling you I agree with it.
First down?
No. Coin flip when Baker Mayfield goes,
he knew.
No, that's right.
Come on.
That's right.
Now,
okay.
You can't give him the ball.
Take your read. It's okay.
No, you were just wrong on this one. You were. The NFL trade deadline was today at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Several contenders made moves. The Lions addressed Aiden Hutchinson's absence for pass rusher Zadarius Smith, who has 5 sacks this season already for the Browns. The Commanders landed Saints corner Marshawn Lattimore, who's often hurt, but I'm Pro Bowler. And the Steelers traded for Jets receiver Mike Williams. So which of these moves stands out to you the most?
What I like most about trade deadlines is that you want to see who the buyers are. You want to see where the optimism is. If you expand the deadline back a week, we see good teams picking up good players from terrible teams. DeAndre Hopkins leaves a terrible team. Tennessee has impact right away in Kansas City, right? Amari Cooper leaves a terrible team. Cleveland has impact right away in Buffalo. So I think it's Zadarius Smith. He leaves Cleveland. You're not going to replace Aiden Hutchinson. But in the absence of Aiden Hutchinson, even though the Lions have won 2 games, They've only had 1 sack in 2 games. They had no sacks on Sunday against Green Bay. This guy's got 5 in 9 games already. To me, the only better move would be to have gotten his teammate, Myles Garrett. Because I think it's a good move.
Not available.
I think it's a good move.
Marshawn Lattimore is interesting. He has missed a lot of games. In the previous 2 seasons, he missed nearly half the games. He's played 7 out of 9 this year. But you get a 4-time Pro Bowl corner on a team that identifies that as a need. There's a promise, a level of promise for the Washington franchise that we didn't think even coming into this season they would have, that they would be a buyer at the trade deadline.
That's what I thought.
And they went specifically, they just seem to be really, not only, Tony, really well run. We can point to the quarterback and say he's the rookie of the year and he's in the contention for most valuable player and all that. But how about just management in terms of making some smart decisions?
When I found out about this, the first thing I read about him was that Lattimore in single coverage hasn't allowed a touchdown in about 4 years or something like that. But what impressed me, and no one out there who doesn't live in Washington will understand this. It's been 25 years since they thought of themselves as the kind of contender that mattered, that wanted to do something at the deadline. To do this really is. All right, let's move to college football, where the playoff committee's first official rankings will be unveiled tonight. We've gone from 4 playoff teams to 12. There are 5 automatic qualifiers, and they are the 5 highest-ranked conference champions, and then there'll be 7 wildcards. We all assume Oregon will be ranked number 1 tonight, but there's intrigue down the ladder. Wilbon, what do you think the committee will do with a couple of your favorite teams, Indiana and Boise State?
They'll just dismiss them for now. They'll make them prove it. Look, I am charmed by the story of the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm a next-door neighbor to the Indiana Hoosiers. You know how many times the Indiana Hoosiers have won 10 games in a regular season in college football in their history? They've been playing about 120 years. You know how many times? None. This is a storybook season for the Hoosiers. So I'm rooting for them, but I think the committee will say, you have the 103rd rated schedule. We're not believing in you yet. We're going to make you beat Michigan.
Okay.
You throttle Michigan in Bloomington. Okay, but you throttle Michigan. We're going to move you up. And Boise, we know we have history with what the powers that be who do things like ranked teams think of Boise. They don't want them. They only want 12 Alabamas and Georgias and Ohio States. They don't want Boise, no matter how charming Boise improve it.
I'm going to do a hard disagreement on Boise, and I'll get to it in a second. I think you have to go big picture here. There's going to be a lot of movement in the next few weeks on this. Because right now, we're in the first turn. We're not anywhere near the top of the stretch. Okay? I think that if you are ranked anywhere around 16 or better, maybe even 20 or better, you're going to have time. You're going to have time because there are a lot of teams in the Big Ten and the SEC who are going to play other big teams in the Big Ten. So that's what's going to happen. I'm going to talk to you about Boise State specifically. They went to Oregon and lost. They lost by 3. And their running back, Genty, had 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. And, Mike, I don't think there's another player in the country that people want to see more in the playoffs than that kid. Because he's a rumor to them now, and they want to see him.
You don't even get to see him either.
I want to see him, though. Ohio State went to Oregon, at Oregon, lost by 1. It's essentially the same. I think Ohio State's going to finish top 3 to top 5 tonight, and I think Boise State will probably be 10 to 14. I don't disagree that they're going to be high in the numbers, but I think people want to see them, and I don't think they're going to legislate against them. I really don't.
The powers that be have shown how petty they can be, the people in the room. And they've done this before,
got the
back
field.
with Boise State. But I want to believe you on
I think I'm right on this.
Because you want to watch them.
I do.
Because you usually call me around 9 o'clock and you say, I want to see him, I just can't stay awake.
Why are they on at 11:30? Right. But there are other games that are going to happen in the next few weeks. They're going to change all of these
Indiana,
things. Alabama, LSU. Georgia, Ole Miss. Texas, Texas A&M. Indiana, Ohio State.
Where's Indiana going to be
Tennessee.
tonight? Where's Indiana going to be tonight?
9. 9.
They're going to make them prove it.
Yeah, well,
it's okay.
You know why,
it's
Mike?
Okay.
Did you say yet. It's 100 years since they played and they never won 10?
Never.
So, you got to prove it.
Yeah.
Let's take a break over this camera. I got the wrong side. Coming up, Jeff Saturday has suggested that Penei Sewell should be in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year. We'll ask him to state that case.
We'll also ask him whether the Patriots guard, who wasn't blocking anybody, this dude actually doing his job? What's he doing?
He's waiting for somebody to come hit him.
Damn.
You got to protect that area, don't you think?
That's like Dion with no.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Crown Royal. Follow the back to Pardon the Interruption, presented by Crown Royal, part of Happy Hour.
Time to dig into the NFL trenches with our great friend, ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday. Jeff, let's start with this. Patriots guard Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, Wilma, did you know he played football too? Michael Jordan received criticism for not blocking anyone on Drake May's game-tying touchdown at the end of regulation. You're an offensive lineman. What did you see on that play?
This is not uncommon. I mean, everybody's killing this poor kid. And here's the deal. As an offensive lineman, you are trained to find work. What does that mean? If you don't get rushed over and you see the offensive lineman beside you, whether it's a guard or a center and a tackle, and you see somebody who's getting bull rushed, you go try to blast somebody. The problem is Drake May is a running quarterback, and so he is as likely to pull the ball down and try to skirt through and go score. So you're trying to hesitate so that if he does do that, you can try to block downfield. So you saw the kid. He was kind of stuck in no man's land. He wanted to go downfield, but then he looked back and he saw Drake, so he backpedals, and then you have two guys running at him. You're not going to touch anybody because as athletic as we are, unfortunately, we don't have eyes in the back of our head, and the guys across from us are really fast. So he looked bad, but it was not a terrible play by the kid. He's getting crushed for nothing right now.
But in the film room, Jeff, is he getting downgraded? What's his likely grade for that?
He's getting fined for conduct detrimental to offensive linemen and making us look bad. So it's going to go into the charity bucket is where the money's going. But he's not getting downgraded because he's doing what he can, but he's embarrassing us as a group, which we take very seriously, and that's where the fine money goes.
I love that. All right, if we're talking offensive player of the year, it's easy to go to the Detroit Lions and look at Jared Goff, who never throws a pick, at David Montgomery, who scores a touchdown every time it seems he touches the ball, at Jahmyr Gibbs, who's just a game breaker at times. But yet you have a write-in candidate. You want to tell us about Penei Sewell and why you say he's the guy?
Baby. How do all those guys succeed? It's because that big fella is laying hat on everybody. And listen, and they stole a touchdown from him. The referee stole a touchdown from my boy. So not only is he dominating the run game, he's locking down ends, he's doing all the downfield blocks, he's doing all the dirty work. He should have some points behind his name, so that just puts him higher up on the list. The most dominating offense in the game right now. He is playing lights out. The kid is on fire. Name in that conversation. I know we never get it, but he has played great football. Their whole line has played really, really well. But my gosh, he is a special talent, and the Detroit Lions hit a home run on this kid.
Yeah, I know. I'd like to have him on my front line. All right, we're going to spread this out for a second to something that never comes up on Sunday, ever in these broadcasts, ever. And that is the quality of NFL coaching. Tony's rolling his eyes already because he knows where I'm coming down on this. I just look at the quality of NFL coaching relative to 30 and 40 years ago. Sometimes you'd have like 4 Hall of Famers, like in the NFC East alone, from Gibbs, Parcells, on and on and on. Jimmy Johnson. Am I being a crotchety old man, Jeff? Or when you look at this, because you played during the end of that great era, are you looking at some of the coaching going, not as good as it used to be?
Okay, I will say you're a bit crotchety, but I think we all know that. But on top of that, I would say you're not giving guys a long enough tenure to earn those things that you're talking about. Okay. So many coaches get fired so quickly. I mean, think about Nick Sirianni right now. And you can love him or hate him. I'm not here to be an apologist for Nick Sirianni. But the guy went to a Super Bowl. He has a bad end of last year. What are they, 6-2 now? And people still bash the guy every week. I could liken this to an Andy Reid 8 years ago or 9 years ago when everybody killed Andy Reid's in-game decisions and were like, he can't do this, he can't do that. The guy's like 4th in the NFL history now at victories for a head coach. You got to give him some time, man. It's not all, was Sirianni's best performance last Sunday? No. But my point is, giving guys some longevity in our game. There are some really good coaches. You can't just fire them all. It's like we keep every general manager, but we fire all the coaches. I don't understand the plan, right? Like, all these coaches are not that bad. Coaching is not easy. There are a lot of really difficult decisions. Some are egregious, but some of our best coaches made some bad decisions and they learned from them. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on they're all awful. But again, let's highlight that with you are crotchety and angry about most things.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for putting Wilbon in his place.
Maybe I'll be a little less crotchety
the guy
for a
on
week.
the lawn
Just 1 week
for everybody else to get off. We'll get you out of here on this. Commander's guard Nick Allegretti had to pull on left tackle Brandon Coleman's dislocated finger to pop it back in place. You played a long time in the middle of the line. Did you ever have to do something?
Come on. I mean, I've held dudes up who are dizzy. They can't find their way. You tell, hey, go right on this next play. Pulled fingers out, bandaged wounds. We do it all. We're offensive linemen. We're ad hoc medics. You name it, we can fix all the problems. That's what we do. That's just old hat for offensive linemen. If you come out of the game for a dislocated finger, you're paying again to the charity jar because that's conduct detrimental to an offensive lineman. We don't care about those things. They can point all different directions. You get back in the game and do your job. That's who we are.
Full service
Tough guys,
offensive
baby.
lineman. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Let's take
Love
one last break. Still to come. Cooper Flagg debut for Duke.
And is it time to start taking the Warriors, the Dubs, seriously?
No, because it's the first.
Tonight on SportsCenter at 6 Eastern on
Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 32nd birthday, Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ was the biggest deal in wide receivers. He was on the Giants where he was Rookie of the Year and a 3-time Pro Bowler in his first 5 seasons. He was making fantastic one-handed grabs. Everyone remembers his iconic one-handed catch against the Cowboys. Then the Giants traded Beckham for the first season. Then he got hurt, and in the wink of an eye, he was gone. He went from Cleveland to the Rams where he was on a Super Bowl team, then to Baltimore for a season. Now he's in Miami where he has 3 catches, 15 yards. Beckham has not had 600 yards receiving in a season since 2019. But happy birthday.
Still my son Matthew's favorite player. Just talks about every catch is compared to OBJ. He comes to NBA playoff games, and I'm in Phoenix one night at halftime. He's just, hey, what are you doing? Let's have a drink and a half. Sit and chat with OBJ.
Really?
It's totally engaging.
Did you have a
Totally
Kia Royale,
engaging.
as you are known to do?
I just had a Kia Royale, I think.
Happy anniversary, LSU. On this day 13 years ago, number 1 LSU defeated number 2 Alabama 9-6 in overtime at Alabama. They had a rematch later that season in the BCS Championship, and this time Alabama won 21-0. That started a stretch of 8 straight Alabama victories in their meetings that ended when Joe Burrow and Clyde Edwards-Helaire powered LSU to a 46-41 victory in 2019. Everybody raves about Alabama-Auburn, but Alabama-LSU is almost as big a deal. They play this weekend at LSU. Both teams are ranked, Bama 11, LSU 14, and both are 6-2. So it's likely the loser will be out of the college football playoffs.
Loser's gone. 3 losses. And if it's LSU and they lost early to SC, and I don't mean South Carolina, I mean Southern California, you got to go.
Yeah.
And Alabama, that's going to be a big news flash if they're out.
Happy trails to last night's opener for number 8 Baylor. VJ Edgecombe of the Bears may have had the highlight of the night, but his dunk would have had to count for 40 points to matter, as Baylor got blowed out in Spokane by number 6 Gonzaga,
like Anthony
101-63. Preseason Duke also opened last night against Maine. Maine is the state where Duke freshman Cooper Flagg grew up. The 17-year-old had a solid debut. 18 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. His fellow freshman, Con Kneppel, added 20 in the Blue Devils' 96-62 win at Cameron.
You know what you'd like to see from Cooper Flagg? You'd like to see him in the old ACC, where you knew he was going to play Carolina twice, Virginia twice, NC State twice,
Not anymore.
Maryland twice. We don't get to see that.
One omission. The NBA suspended Joel Embiid 3 games for shoving a sports writer. Your thoughts quickly.
They deserve, Tony, and now he may get to play the open the season back at home in Philadelphia against the Knicks a week from tonight.
Will they boo him in Philly?
Not against the Knicks.
Big finish, here we go. Your Thunder are 7-0. Your Warriors are 6-1. What's the bigger deal?
You know, I'm picking the Warriors to win the whole thing. I'm sorry, I'm picking the Thunder
Yes,
to win the
you've
whole
done
thing.
that.
But I'm going to say the Warriors. That's a surprise.
Okay.
Thunder, not a surprise. Warriors, yes. Novak Djokovic withdrew from the ATP Finals. Is that significant?
I think he's close to done, don't you? Close to
Yeah,
done.
probably so.
Number 1 draft pick, Macklin Celebrini, returns to the ice for the Sharks tonight for the first time since getting injured in the opener. Your thoughts?
Blue Jackets at Sharks. It's just a goal and assist. Just see him out there somewhere. The Raiders are hiring Norv Turner to advise on their offense. That makes sense?
I love Norv Turner. You love Norv Turner. He knows what he's seeing out there, and his kid Scott
great
is the OC
coaches
right
of
now.
his
Last one.
Yep.
The 8-0 Cavs beat the 1-6 Bucks.
Ooh.
Which team starts the bigger deal?
I don't want to hate on Cleveland or ignore them. That's a hell of a start. It's only them and the Thunder undefeated.
1-6.
But the Bucks.
1-6.
The Bucks.
Come on now. Come on now. We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm waving the floor. Tony Kornhut.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on. You know what's coming up.
What did you do to your friend Doc Rivers telling him to take that shot?
Doc, gotta start winning some games.
Bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon. What was the best NFL trade acquisition?
Tony, what this question really is seeking an answer for is, what was the best acquisition just before the trade deadline? And if that is really the specific question, it's either Zadarius Smith going to Detroit. Right. And you can't, replace Aiden Hutchinson, but you got to have some pass rush on that side to attempt to make up for all he delivers.
Detroit in the last 2 games without Hutchinson, and they've won those games. They have 1 sack in 2 games, so they need that guy.
Have to have Zadarius Smith, and this is who we all thought they needed to go after him. They went after him, they got him. And Washington, the Commanders, getting Marshawn Lattimore. That's a big deal, even if he misses a lot of time. Man, he's got a hamstring injury now, but if you could put a 4-time Pro Bowl corner on the field, you got to go for it, particularly when you're 7-2, and now you're playing to hold off Philly because the Giants can't catch you and Dallas can't catch you, and you're feeling pretty good about yourself as a buyer. But I'm going to cue you up now because I know we both think there was a better acquisition way before the trade deadline.
There were 2. I actually think 2, and I don't think it was way before. I think it's within a week.
But that's what I mean, a week?
I will just say about Washington doing this, and we know this because we live here. They haven't done this in 25 years.
It's been a long time.
They haven't been good enough to matter at the trade deadline to buy in 25 years. Yeah, I think the 2 best acquisitions are both receivers.
Yeah.
I think it's DeAndre Hopkins at Kansas City.
Ding, ding, ding.
And I think it's Amari Cooper at Buffalo. And the reason I think Amari Cooper at Buffalo may be even more important is because Stephon Diggs left that team and they did not have a wideout. And both those teams are obviously Super Bowl contenders and have to go through each other. Oh, he's still,
Tony, nobody has more active player, has more catches than Hopkins. And even though he's quote unquote older at this point, my goodness, he is a defense wrecker.
So he's not going to catch the ball and run 40 yards anymore.
Not anymore.
But his hands are so good that with a good quarterback throwing to him, and do we think Patrick Mahomes
the best
is good?
Quarterback throwing to him.
That he's going to catch everything that comes his way.
Wow.
And that changes it for all the
Where
other
are the other
receivers.
GMs and teams? They couldn't use Hopkins? Huh?
I would think they could.
It's an indictment of a lot of teams. That's it. We're done. Back to you.
When it comes